Hello, my name is Helmar Kraus. I'm supplier quality engineer at ASML and work in the 3D PMI MBE project to support our suppliers with the 3D PMI way of working. But before we start, just a very small recap. PMI stands for Product Manufacturing Information, and 3D PMI actually refers to the fact that all this manufacturing information is now in the model instead of the drawing. So there is basically no drawing anymore with the 3D PMI way of working. So that means our designers, they put all the information, geometric and non-geometric information, into the native CAD file, into the 3D model. And therefore we always deliver with our manufacturing documentation, we deliver this native CAD model with our documentation package. But of course, not everybody is able to read NX files. And therefore, we also deliver two neutral formats, which is the step file that is leading for manufacturing, and the JT file, which contains all the PMI. And to be able to read the PMI and process it, you need a good viewer. And in this webinar, I would like to give you an overview on the JT viewers, how, why, and how we recommend it. And in the second part of this webinar, I'm going to demonstrate in a live demo on a real viewer software the major functions you would need to work with the PMI. And I hope to give you some good ideas, some additional ideas, which you might have not been considered yet. But before we start, there is one important prerequisite for this webinar. It would be good if you have some knowledge about the 3D PMI way of working already, because I'm not explaining the way of working itself. And it would be beneficial if you have some basic knowledge or some experience already with the JT viewer, the JT2Go, for example. And if not, there is training material available on our supplier portal. To access it, you just go to the ASML website, to the supplier net. If you are first tier supplier for ASML, you should have access. You just log in with all your credentials, go to the general supplier documents, and in the folder, technology folder, there's a specific 3D PMI folder where you find all the training material grouped in the 3D PMI way of working, the JT viewer trainings, and even MDTBD. After we started with the 3D PMI way of working, we started with the JT2Go. It's a cost-free viewer everybody can download, and it's easy to start with. But after a while, we thought, okay, we want to do more with the PMI, and therefore we, based on our own experience and also the input we got from our suppliers, from the users of the PMI actually, we defined all the requirements which we think a good JT viewer should have. We grouped them into different categories, like the basic requirements which are needed for viewing, which all the viewers, it's a must-have for all the viewers. Second, we define some advanced requirements which are needed to, for example, add information, do some more with the PMI, and some additional requirements, nice to haves. Then we defined different use cases to work with the PMI. For example, use PMI for creating manufacturing instructions. And then we mapped all those requirements to the different use cases. And as a last step, we added our viewer software to this matrix and evaluated if they fulfill those requirements or not. And this is now our list of recommended JT viewers. First of all, of course, the solution from the Siemens PLM world, because original JT was developed by Siemens, and we in-house we use NX for our CAD design, and it really makes sense to start with the JT2Go viewer. So the JT2Go, the basic version, you can download it for free, And it's easy to start with, but it's really limited to viewing only. If you want to do more, for example, add information or save your work, then you can go for the supplier edition. Or if you're a Teamcenter user, there you can use the Teamcenter visualization software, which is either embedded in Teamcenter or as a separate standalone software, but still connected to Teamcenter. And it has similar function, depending on the license level, similar function to the basic JT2Go, or even more function than the supplier edition if you use the professional edition. And then we are also looking outside of the Siemens world. We evaluated a lot of viewers, and finally we selected the Kistas 3D View Station, which I want to give you some more details in the next slide. The first reason why we selected the Kistas 3D View Station is it's has a lot of compatibility. It's not only working with the JT files, but you can open basically any kind of industry standard CAD files, including an X, and also neutral formats like STEP. And you don't even need an engineering laptop for it. You can just, with a normal laptop, you can open NX files, for example, and it's still performant. The second reason, it gives a lot of functionality, which we defined in our requirements list, which I will present in the demo in the second part. And last but not least, we also need to look in the future. We started small with the 3D PMI way of working, small monoparts, simple monoparts, for example. But in the end, if you think of large frames at ASML already, for example, you need to also work with PMI, with files that contain more than 1,000 PMIs, which we call the high volume PMI files, which has dozens of views, and a good viewer software need to be still able to open these kind of files in a short time, and being still performant. So this will conclude the introduction part of our presentation, and now I'm going to demonstrate the functionality of the kit. Now let's start with the demo. We selected the Kistas 3D View Station because for JT and JT2Go, we have training material, videos, and for the supplier edition, even a webinar available on our portal, which I showed you in the first part already. And therefore, we selected Kistas for this demo. You see here the screen, the user interface. In the middle, of course, the viewing, the 3D viewing section. And on the sides here, there are additional windows with additional information. They call it panes. And you can organize them completely in a way you prefer it, depending a little bit on the size of your screen you have available. What I normally do, and which I also recommend, here on the left side, I have here the views and the structure pane, and also the profile. I will come to that later. It's a nice feature in the Kistas 3D View Station. And here on the left side, I have the properties, so-called properties pane, which give you some more details on every object you select in the view station, which you can then read more information, but also manipulate this information later on. You can individually switch those pane on and off and organize them in a way you prefer. For example, I could drag this here and make it a new tab here. I can put it back to the top and to the right, so you can organize your work area however you like it. So let's have a look at the PMI. Now, of course, you have always the isometric view, which contains all the PMI, and then the specific view that the designer created to focus on certain PMIs from a different view. I want to show you something which is quite new. That's the general tolerance view, which we also will add to the PMI, to the JT file for the PMI. But before we start to go to more details on the functionality, I would like to emphasize a very important feature on the PMI way of working is the so-called associativity. That means all the PMI you see here, it's not just the text, it's really associated or referenced to the features. For example, if I select this one here, you see it's then highlighted. I select this one, and they are highlighted here as well. This is not only important to make the reading more convenient, it's very essential for if you think of the next phase of 3D PMI way of working, it's very essential for all the downstream applications that this software like CMM or also CAM, if you use the PMI for this one, it's very important that this software is able to electronically process the PMI, so that there's really a relation between the text of the PMI and the feature, the geometric feature where this text is related to. So you can use this associativity to click on the PMI and then see the related features highlighted. But you can also use it the other way around. And this gives you some nice opportunities, some nice possibilities to filter the information you need. And I will show this in a nice example. Let's use the isometric view, which contains all the PMI. And then you can here in the start menu, you have different selection modes. The standard one is just the selection mode. And if you go to the PMI reference selection mode and then hide all the PMIs, then you have the possibility, now you see it here, if I hover over this geometry, then the different faces are highlighted. And then I select a face. Let's pick the top one, where I want to see all the PMI which is related just to this face. So select the face, click Show, and then you see that only the PMI it's showing which has a reference to this face. This is a nice way to step-by-step filter all the information you need to go through your model step-by-step and have only the relevant information displayed on your screen. Now, don't forget to go back to the normal selection mode again. And if you here then double-click on the isometric view, the view is just displayed again in the original way. So there's another way to filter your information, which is the search function. So for using the search function, I would recommend to use the structure tree as well. You can also just everything collapse. And then now let's go to the tools menu. And here is a search function. So searching means that you looking for a specific parameter of PMI and maybe even the content of the PMI. You can search and filter with this search function. I normally use the search by name. And if I enter something, I would always recommend to use a star in the front and in the end. Let's say, for example, we look for some surface finish. Just type in surface, ended by a star, and enter. And then you see here all the surface finish PMI in the structure tree and also highlighted here in the model. Let's pick another example. For example, if you want to search for a specific PMI with the ID 182. Maybe you remember from the PMI introduction training that every PMI has a unique identifier, which makes it easy for, in the review process, to have a reference to one specific feature or PMI. Just 182, press enter, and then you see again it's highlighted in the structure tree and also in your model. But you can also search for specific PMI in the details. Then I would recommend to go to the attribute value search. You can also, by the way, you can also search for the ID. Just enter the 182 And now you see it's selected again. And the reason for this is because if you look now at the properties window, the 182 is also one of those properties. Let's pick another example. For example, you want to look for if there is an M6 threaded feature. Just type in M6, enter. Now you see here it's found. There's an M6 threaded feature. And again here, M6, you see here it's one parameter, and therefore it can be found on the attribute value search. You need to play a little bit with the search, but in my experience, most of the time I search by the name or by the attribute value. That's are the most relevant search functions here. Okay. If you want to do anything more, just don't forget to deselect the search again. Then you see the search pane disappears also, and you are in the so-called normal mode again. Okay, let's do another thing. If you normally most of the TBD already contains some section views. It's a predefined section by the designer. You can also manipulate the section plane a little bit. But if you want to do your own section, it's of course also possible. Then you just let's pick one empty model, not to get distracted by the PMI. And then let's go to the analyze section function. There are several ways to define your section pane. I just picked the normal one. Then you get here an arrow, just select the direction of the section you would like to perform. Let's pick this one. And then you have here again the handles to create your section. And you will see that the model is hollow. That's one of the features of the JT format, because it's a lightweight format. So therefore the model is hollow. And if this is a little bit disturbing, you have also the option here to fill this one here. If this looks a little bit more user friendly, then it's always filled. So disable again. What we have seen now are just, let's say, the basic viewing function of using the JT in the viewer. Now we want to do some more of the advanced functionality, where we would like to add our own information. So let's pick one view, the front view here, for example, where you want to add more information. Just orient it in a way that it's nice. And then go to the Tools menu and 3D markup. We want to add some text. And then you see the 3D markup pane pops up. And you can either predefine a text here, or you can just add the default text and then change it afterwards. I will show it to you. If I hover with the mouse, I see the face is highlighted. Let's put some text here. So it's the predefined text. And then if you select the text afterwards, in the properties pane, therefore I always have it open, as I mentioned in the beginning, you can then change the content of the text afterwards. Let's change it to remark, for example. And maybe you recognize one nice feature with the 3D markup functionality. It's if I click on the text, also the associated face here is highlighted as well. This is the so-called reference. You can create a reference for every text you add. It's a nice feature, but if you don't need that, you can also deselect it. You see a lot of predefined setting you can change, and then you can save it in a new profile. I mentioned the profile section in the beginning. Now you see the benefits, because Kistos View Station comes with 2 predefined profiles, and you can add as many personal profiles as you want. For example, I created here the Helmar's PMI profile. And if you want, for example, the reference creation not always there and the predefined text different, you can just change it, select your profile setting, and click on Update. And then the next time, always, if you create, for example, markup, then it starts with the default settings which you just saved. So it's a very nice feature to make your work a bit more efficient. So now we added a remark. Let's disable it again. And now let's say we want to add some measurement. For this we go to the measurement sections. There are several ways. You see a lot of ways to do measurements here with the view station. Let's just pick some to measure some distance. You have even a lot of options to measure the distance from point to point, edge to edge, face to face. Let's pick edge to edge and add some measurements from this edge to this one. So you can organize that it looks nicely. And also the same applies to here. That's, there's a lot of predefined settings, but you can also change it afterwards here in the property section again. Let's say you want to just have the cut standard, just the 40 like this. So you can always change it afterwards. And then let's add some colors, for example, to indicate different surface treatment, etc. For this, just disable the measurement again and go to the selection mode again. And here we have the face selection mode. Just click on the face selection mode. And now you can select, for example, this face. And in the properties window, you can change the color of this face. So now we colorize this face to indicate some additional information you would like to add. So now we added a lot of information to the front view, but it's now also important to save the work you have just added. And for this, let's have a look at the views pane. You see a lot of buttons here on the top. First of all, the create button. If you press the create button, then you see a new view is created with all the information you have added. You can also give the new view, your own name. Let's call it remarks. And then you can go back to another view and you go back to this view again, and all your work is saved in that way. If you then later on add more information or manipulate your view, then you just select it again and press here the update button, and then the view is updated with the work you have added. So with the update button, you can add information to all the views. Actually, you can update all the views, but I would recommend that the original views on the TPD you get from ASML, keep it untouched. And if you add your own information, just add additional views. So another feature which is can be very important to have a transition to, let's say, old way of working. Of course, the goal with the 3D PMI way of working is to use the model as much as possible to get all the information and get connected to all your downstream applications. But there are still might be cases that black and white prints are needed. And it must be in a good view, it must be very easy. And I will show you how it works with the Kisters. Let's, for example, pick this view. And in the view section, there's a separate viewing mode, which calls illustration mode. So let's pick this again, oriented. And there's just one click of a button, illustration mode, and then it's black and white. Now you can then use this one as a new view, create a new view. You can select another one, also switch it to black and white. It's just one print of a button. You can also go back. You can just toggle between those two modes. It's very easy. Just make it black and white. Add it as another view. We can also give it a proper name, like here, for instance, the back view, black and white. And there's just one thing I would like to mention, a little tip. If you experience that the view is, that the black and white is not really black and white. There's just one setting here in the illustration mode, which is called use PMI and markup color. If this one is enabled, then the PMI is still colorized. Please make sure that this option is disabled. Save it to your profile again. It's just a one-time action, and then always just one click of the button works with creating black and white prints. So now we just created the black and white views, but it would be also nice to save them separately maybe. And for this you see another button here which is called Save Views as PDF. You can select one or several views. Let's pick the ones we just created. Click here on the PDF button. And then we can save it as a PDF file. Let's say views. And then you can create a PDF package. And it would be nice to have a sort of an overview also about all the views which are related to this design. And there's also a button here, create a PDF containing an overview of all the views. For this, you might, for example, clean up your views a little bit. There are some default, in this case, empty views, which you can also delete. Let's pick this, all the ones you don't need, like this one. And now with the remaining views, we can create one overview PDF. Let's also name it overview. So, and last but not least, you might also want to save the entire work here, all the views and everything you have added to the JT file. You also might want to save it and rework again the next day or deliver it to other users. And therefore, you can also save your work. Click on Save As. And you see here in the selection mode, you have a lot of neutral formats in which you can save or export your added information or your entire work package, actually. It can be a step, a JT again, but I would recommend if you to keep all the relations, to keep everything in the most reliable way, just pick up the 3D view station option. Just pick another one only in case if you send it to another user who does not have the 3D view station. But for your own work, I would recommend to save it at this file format. Just press Save. And then we can close our work, and let's have a look on the files we have just created. So here you see the two PDF files, the views we have just created. So there's one page for each individual view. So the black and whites here in the end. This is the overview sheet. If you create a PDF package, you can put this on top as a kind of a cover sheet to your PDF work package. It's just a small overview, not giving too many details, but as a cover page, it might be useful. Okay, let's close this one again. And now open your work, which you have just saved. You can we open it again. So you say your saved work is there again, and you can start working on it again. For example, on the black and white, as I said, it's just you can still, even if it's saved, you can also go back to your original view. Now, so just one click of the button, you can always toggle between the black and white and the normal mode. And there's one detail I would like to show you, which is, I think, quite important. If you have a look at the structure tree, let's first pick the the view where we have added some more information. And if you look now on the structure tree, you see an extra tree for all, it's called created nodes, for all the information we have added here to the model. So everything we added, every node, every measurement is a separate object here, which you can select and deselect individually. But you can also, which is very nice, you can also single ones or the entire nodes, you can copy it and paste it to other models. This can be very helpful if you, for example, let's say you receive TPD from ASML, where you edit a lot of information which you require for your manufacturing, and then you get an update, maybe an LD change or a date change with some minor changes on the model, but you will get a new file. And then instead of doing all the work again on the new file, you can just open both GT files here in the viewer and just copy and paste your added information to the new file, and it will appear at the same location with the same reference also on the updated file. Of course, if the geometry has changed completely, then the reference might be not so good. But if it's just a minor update, you can easily transfer all your added information to the new updated TPD. This will conclude the demo. And I want just to summarize what our most important message is with this demo. So we are convinced that the viewers are mature. They provide all the necessary functionality to work with the PMI, and they are available on the market for our suppliers. And just please use it, make your own experience. And if you want to give feedback and also share your experience with the PMI, please contact us in the 3D PMI supply chain team. Thank you.